It's 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, so you must be watching ThinkTech Hawaii Research in Manoa. I'm your host, Pete Mouginis Mark, and we have a really interesting show for you today because, believe it or not, we have a really big science conference in town this week. And so I've got two special guests with me today. On my left, we have Vicki McConnell, who is the Executive Director of the Geological Society of America. And further on, screen right, we have Deborah Zimmerman, who is with the Hawaii Tourist Authority. And you might think, why are these two fabulous ladies here together? Well, first and foremost, we have a big conference starting tomorrow here in Hawaii. So let me first turn to you, Vicki. Tell me a little bit about the Geological Society of America, and then let's talk a bit about the conference, which is starting tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Pete. I'd love to talk a little bit about that. The Geological Society of America is quite old. It was started in 1888, so we've been around for a while. We focus primarily as a service to the geoscience professionals. It's a way for geoscientists to publish their scholarly work. We have publications. We hold meetings, which we're going to talk about a special meeting here in a minute. And we also have abilities to help you grow in your profession. We do mentoring. We do career development, those kind of things.
And when you say geoscientists, you're not just thinking about geologists. These are earth scientists who might be covering everything from studying coral reefs to studying volcanoes or natural hazards and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Precisely. That's why I say geoscientists.
Yes,
geologists is one aspect of that, and as you know, we really cover not just the Earth, but
the planets as well, close to my own heart indeed. Yes,
so.
yes. The viewers have suffered some of my previous visits to ThinkTech, and they know that I'm particularly interested in Mars and the other planets as well. And I guess, Debbie, you're one of the main reasons for Vicki being here, and can one of you ladies tell us what is happening here tomorrow?
May I take a crack at it first?
Please do.
Thank you. Well, GSA has large meetings, but we also have what we call regional or section meetings, and those are the Cordilleran section, which is our oldest and largest. It's been around for 113 years, is holding their regional meeting here in Hawaii, on Oahu, and the other islands starting tomorrow, although we actually started a couple of days before, because one of the things we do that's very important is we have field trips.
Right, or geologists like getting out in the
geoscientists.
Geoscientists.
That's right, we all like to get out there, and this is a spectacular area for studying many of the geologic processes that we see at the surface of the Earth. They're up close and personal right
And
here.
I think, Deborah, the Hawaii Tourism Authority was instrumental in placing this conference in the convention center. Is that correct?
Well, actually, it was interesting. I guess the section came to the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology and said, we'd like to do a program in Hawaii, but we do require local support. And so thankfully, Dr. Craig Glenn stepped up and said, I will be the leader of the local organizing committee. And then he turned to us, the Hawaii Tourism Authority, for help in finding the appropriate placement.
Interesting. I always find it interesting to try and figure out, well, who had the first idea of coming to Hawaii? Who are the local organizing committee? And Craig's in the Department of Geology and Geophysics at SOAST, correct?
Yeah.
And then Craig turned to you through the Tourism Authority to try and find a venue. And obviously the convention center is an ideal place. Right?
And you know, if the university hadn't stepped up and accepted these local host responsibilities, the program wouldn't be here. Because I can't I can't organize field trips like they can. And talk the science the way they can.
Well, Vicki, you mentioned that field trips are really an important part of any of the GSA conferences. I think we've got a picture of the organizer of some of these
right
field
there.
trips. There we have Scott Rowland, also in the Geology and Geophysics department, standing in front of what looks like Halemaumau crater to me.
It does look like that. Conducting a field trip. These are, as we said, are absolutely essential, and they're part of what brands or makes GSA, the Geological Society of America, what it is. And it's part of the reasons that we have meetings in different areas. That way we can look at the local geology and the geography, and it's very important.
And I understand there was a very successful field trip last weekend. Tina Neal and Don Swanson from the Hawaii Volcano Observatory led some of the attendees around Kilauea Volcano.
That's right, and those are the two scientists in charge, the former and the present, and for the USGS and what we call HVO, or the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. And so that's wonderful to have that local, not only that's world-class expertise that can share their knowledge and share that area. I mean, that's fabulous. We are so honored and lucky to have, and I want to say that I really do want to give a shout out to all of the local planning committee, Craig Glenn, who is the chair and really has stepped up, but everyone else, the technical, the field trip, all of the volunteers, the student volunteers, we couldn't do it without you, and we really, really appreciate that enthusiasm and that help.
And you mentioned that there's some world-class research being done here, but why come to Hawaii? We've got a few illustrations, I think, to point out some of the almost unique attributes of Hawaii where GSA would actually like to have the conference. So maybe we can just run through one or two of the images, and let's take a look at the next slide. And obviously this must be a volcano, right?
Well, it's one of the aspects of a volcano, absolutely, yes.
Sure.
And you're seeing a lava flow, of course, up close and personal. That's Pahoehoe type of lava. And we have it here in spades, and it's fantastic. And being able to actually study what we say in situ, or right there in front of you, is absolutely invaluable to earth scientists. And so that's, you can't get that.
And of course, the Pu'u'u volcano has been active since January of 1983. And so in my own work, I hear that people come quite often to Hawaii with almost the certainty that they can see some kind of volcanic eruption, either at the summit, as we saw in the background of Scott, or actually seeing some lava flows on the surface or going into the ocean.
That's right, even that interface between the Earth and the ocean, which is very critical as well, because you learn about those processes as well.
And we know a lot about that because it generates the steam clouds, which are partly responsible for the bad air quality.
For the fog.
Yes. Okay.
So yes, it's a interrelated and interconnected. You don't say you just study the Earth, because you have to consider the atmosphere, you have to consider the ocean, you have to consider all the processes.
Okay, let's look at another slide. So another aspect. This is Mapuna Puna, close to downtown Honolulu, where we are right now, and presumably this could be covered by several fields of expertise, right?
That's right. You're looking at what you're seeing here would be your oceanography, hazards, hydrology, atmospheric issues, flooding. That's it covers a lot of territory.
And we'll point out to the viewers, in fact, that you're coming up in a few days' time, in early June, we have these king tides, where we might just be seeing something like this
very similar
in several places around Oahu and on our neighbor islands. Yeah.
So what will happen at this meeting is we will be sharing our science and our scientists on this, and there'll be sessions that will cover looking at processes, ocean processes, volcanic processes, and the experts and the students will be giving their presentations. I hear you may have a presentation or two, Pete.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
one or two. Yes.
I'm happy to hear that.
I dash back from the studio to my office to prepare my own talks coming up tomorrow on Wednesday.
And that's the key. One of the other key parts of our meetings is the opportunity for us to work together, to meet your colleagues, to show your scholarly work, to explain where your research is going, to be challenged a little bit on it, and to explain it.
And Debbie, I understand there's quite a few students attending. It's not just professional scientists. Is that
Yes,
true?
I understand over 60% of the attendance is students.
60%.
So that's very high.
That's really
Yeah,
good.
that's very high number,
Training
yeah.
the next generation of
Absolutely.
scientists, right?
Right, scientists and workforce. In the workforce, the researchers, and the applied side. That is very important too.
Okay, well, let's find another reason why GSA wants to come to Hawaii. This is a silly photograph of me, but I believe there's a special reason for this particular site.
There's a session on what are called UAS or UAVs, which are unmanned aerial systems or unmanned aerial vehicles. Drones, as we generally call them. And that's very important because this is a tool that is used by geoscientists for carrying instrumentation when you can't necessarily get to an area that you can up close or in person. So they're critical to our work and to our research. And one of the reasons that this area is very important is Hawaii is one of FAA's test beds on how are they actually going to develop the regulation and how is the commercial side going to develop these type of equipment.
ThinkTech often has Ted Ralston talking about UASs, for example.
And Ted will be giving a presentation
giving
as
a
well.
presentation as well.
Yes, we at GSA are interested in how can we get the message to the commercial aspect on what do geoscientists need for this tool that could carry their instrumentation and payloads.
Right.
And because if the commercial side doesn't know what we need, they don't know or what to design
And that
for.
must be a great motivator for the younger scientists in GSA, that basically here is a new technology, so you might get not only geoscientists but also engineers or people who do the programming.
Precisely. It is. It again is an integrated system.
Yeah, it must be a really exciting session to be in, to just see where some of the new technology is leading us.
And how that instrumentation is going to push where our science will go.
Good. You should come to my talk. We've got time for one more slide, and we can see what is this?
Gosh, Pete, what is this?
I understand GSA has a really strong planetary sciences
correct.
component.
Right.
I believe what we're looking at here is Mount Sharp in Gale Crater, where the Curiosity rover is currently driving across the surface. But more in general, why planetary in Hawaii? Do you know any of the connections?
A little bit of that is certainly again, and this is one of the things where we call remote sensing. We can only see what's happening on Mars from afar. So we need analogs. We need something to compare it to here on Earth. And there are areas within the volcanic terrains and geomorphology landscapes of Hawaii that really can help us work on those type of comparisons. So it's again a fantastic lab to understand not just the Earth, but the solar system and beyond.
And I understand not only NASA, but the Canadian Space Agency bring their testbed rovers to the Big Island to actually test trafficability and how the instruments work and that kind of thing.
You can perhaps take it on that fresh new lava, then maybe you can take it on a different planet.
This is terrific. So basically, Hawaii really is one of the best places, not the only one, but obviously one of the best places for geoscientists to come and do their field work rather than just come and attend a conference.
That's exactly right.
Whether it's the volcano, whether it's oceanography, whether it's with drones or UASs, for example, or planetary, and there's many other presumably sessions which will be held later on.
Yeah, very important ones, again, are looking at hazards, natural hazards in general, and how do we respond to them.
Yeah, if we have time. We're coming up to a break right now, and obviously, Deborah, we haven't intentionally been ignoring you, but I think this whole topic of having science conferences in Hawaii, not only where they're relevant to the researchers, but it must have a really big economic impact on the state as well. So when we come back after the break, I'd like to be asking you sort of what the more general benefits are to Hawaii for having a conference like the one which GSA is starting to host tomorrow, in fact. So let me just remind the viewers, you're watching ThinkTech Hawaii Research in Manoa. I'm your host, Pete Mouginis Mark, and we have Vicki McConnell, who's the Executive Director of the Geological Society of America, and Deborah Zimmerman from the Hawaii Tourist Authority. And when we come back, we'll be looking at some of the economic impacts of conferences like this. So we'll be back very soon. Bye.
You can be the greatest, you can be the best, you can be the king, come banging on your chest. You can beat the world, you can beat the war, you could talk to God, go banging on his door. You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock, you can move a mountain, you can break rocks, you can be a master, don't wait for luck, dedicate yourself and you can find yourself. Stand in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Kindness. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
And welcome back. You are watching ThinkTech Hawaii Research in Manoa. I'm your host, Pete Mouginis Mark, and we have today Vicki McConnell, who is the Executive Director of the Geological Society of America, and Deborah Zimmerman, who is with the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And Deborah, we left the first half by saying this must be a really important type of meeting for Hawaii to have, but it's not the only one, is that correct?
Oh, yes. You know, Hawaii specializes in scientific meetings. Because we are a living laboratory for scientific exploration, and we do have wonderful work that is going on here. I mean, our ability to view the stars is unparalleled on the planet, and the research that we can do in the deep ocean waters and the microclimates we have and the different environments, it's very, very unique here. So, and the faculty that the University of Hawaii is able to draw are some of the leading scientists on the planet. And so they really provide a solid scientific background for these conferences. But then also Hawaii specializes in bridging cultures. We connect cultures, you know, not only because we're strategically convenient in our mid-Pacific location, but because our population base is very diverse and our visitor base is very diverse. And so people feel very accepted here. We know how to handle Japanese, Chinese travelers. Travelers are different cultures, and everybody seems to feel comfortable here. We're like the Geneva of the Pacific.
That's a good way of expressing it.
And I think what's really important is that knowledge knows no boundaries. And to advance knowledge, researchers need to collaborate. And so no longer can we just think that we know all there is. We have to know what the Japanese are studying and what the Chinese are studying and, you know, what the rest of the world is studying. And so this is a place the world likes to come.
Right.
So we're very successful in having these global scientific meetings in Hawaii.
And I think the Tourist Authority has actually put together a little video, maybe we can play that right now, which just sort of emphasizes this point that, you know, it's a great meeting place, East and West, as well as the fact that not only geoscientists, but also electrical engineers or people who are studying health might find it particularly interesting. So if we can run the video.
Electrochemistry, it sounds very specialized, but it's actually a very broad science. It involves other disciplines, physics, chemistry, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, materials. It's driving the technologies that are changing the world.
Prime is an important meeting because of its location. It's sort of like real estate, right? It's location, location, location.
We originally picked Hawaii because of the Pacific Rim location and that it was part of the United States. And for us, having never done a meeting outside the United States, it gave us an opportunity to replicate what we normally do, but have a Pacific Rim location.
ECS meeting provides such a very nice, and also Prime provides a very nice opportunity to all countries.
This Prime meeting is unique. This is a joint international meeting of ECS, ECSJ, and KECS. Especially this is first time Korean electrochemical.
Okay, so that really made the point that Hawaii is this sort of common area where people from different cultures can come. Is this the impression that you get through GSA? You've only been to Hawaii once before this visit, Vicki, right?
Well, it's not for lack of not wanting to.
Not
from a professional point of view, again, as we said, it's a very important place or spot for geoscientists. It also is for GSA, something that we are interested in because, as Deborah was saying, this cross-culture, East meets West, it's a meeting place, and we see that certainly in the geoscientists, the importance of, again, the broad global understanding of our science.
And obviously, from a student's point of view, I know that it's challenging to send our graduate students or undergraduates to the mainland or to Asia.
Yeah.
And so it's really encouraging that so many of the attendees at this week's meeting are actually students, because they get to see world-class investigators reporting on their research, whether it's with Prime, whether it's the Electrochemical Society, or whatever. This is a really important step.
Yeah, so
very important.
What they find in these types of partnering meetings, like the Electrochemical Society does, or the American Chemical Society, is that by working on a meeting together, they not only advance knowledge, they strengthen their own professional relationships, and they grow membership.
But Deborah, this must have an important economic impact for
Yes.
Hawaii as well, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. So the scientific conferences that we're bringing in with the help of the University of Hawaii have generated $500 million, more than $500 million.
Billion with a B.
With a B, yeah, since the opening of the Hawaii Convention Center. So it is quite amazing the tens of millions of dollars one conference can generate.
Yeah.
For example, we have, because of the University of Hawaii Electrical Engineering Department, an IEEE meeting with 8,000 people coming in the first week of June, and that meeting should contribute about $40 million of economic impact to our community.
Something which the general public here in Hawaii may not be aware of.
Right.
But
yeah, and then later in June we have the American Society of Plant Biologists, again affiliated with the University of Hawaii, bringing thousands of plant biologists here, with more
fascinating. I think you brought along just a couple of charts which show basically some of the numbers which we're talking about. If we go to the next slide, this is.
So this is the American,
the
American Chemical Society. This is a very interesting meeting. It started back in 1984 when the Japan Chemical Society was turning 100. And they wanted to do something special to celebrate their centennial, so they invited the Americans to join them in a venue that would be equally attractive and convenient. So they chose Hawaii for their centennial.
And I see almost a 5-fold increase in the number of
so
visitors.
that meeting in '84 was so successful, they said, we got to do this again. And they put it on a 5-year rotation, and you can see how the meeting has grown over the past 3 decades.
And I think the next slide has some more data as well for us.
Yes, and so this is the Electrochemical Society. They first started meeting just jointly with the Japanese, then this year they brought in the Koreans, and their meeting has been growing as well.
Okay. It doesn't fill the convention center all of
it fills, yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah, sure, yeah. The convention center, it's a wonderful size. We can do smaller programs of a couple thousand, And then we do programs like the chemical group, which is 15,000 people. So,
15,000,
yeah.
that's
But we're not
significant for
Yeah, but we're not like Moscone, where it's a convention factory. We're pumping them in and pumping them out week in and week out.
Moscone in San Francisco.
Right, in San Francisco, right. So I feel like we really give our accounts a lot of hand-holding, a lot of attention, a lot of service. When we write very, very competitive proposals.
Great.
So.
Well, Vicki, tomorrow is the start of your meeting. What are your hopes or aspirations for the next 3 days? How do you identify whether it's a successful conference? How do you keep all of the attendees happy? What do you hope for the next few days?
Well, other than making sure there's enough coffee, because that's always very important, what we strive for, and with the help and work of the Cordilleran management and this local team, this local group, the planning committee that's together, is one, that people are walking around with smiles on their faces, talking to their colleagues. They're excited. They come out of a session, they go, that is something I did not see. That is something new. I'm going to go back and I'm going to start working with this person. There's an energy that comes out of this.
Do you have any hints on any world-shattering discoveries which will be presented at this meeting? Should we be paying attention to the TV or the newspapers?
Well, I can't put my finger on any certain presentation.
But they have to come to my talks.
That's right. First they'll have to come and sit to your talks. I know that you were priming me for that. And I think I definitely think that you'll hear a little bit about the UAVs, the unmanned aerial vehicles, and some of the questions and issues and everything, which are really good. It's not in a negative, it's in a very positive way. How can we use these tools properly? And there's other technology transfers that'll go on. We have these short courses where we're teaching, again, this technology transfer to people who maybe need to have a little bit of extra oomph on that. That's very important.
And of course, there are other areas like in energy or underwater vehicles where the technology is right cutting edge, is what I understand.
It is, and the opportunity to share that with your colleagues that maybe aren't as aware of it is very important.
Okay.
And I guess I'll say the one other thing, and that is the students, our student volunteers, and the opportunities that they have to participate in a meeting like this it's invaluable.
So this is a great opportunity for networking, for the Hawaii Tourism Authority to actually recognize potential for future conferences as well. Is that true?
Right.
Yes, that's true.
Hopefully
and I think
the two
it's really
of you are discussing. We need to get the national GSA meeting here, for example.
And I think it's really great for our students too, to bring this knowledge to them and make it convenient for them. So it's great for them, and it's great for faculty recruitment too, right? I mean, because who doesn't come to Hawaii and think, how do I get an assignment here?
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so let me just thank you once again, Vicki. Thank you very much for
it's such a
coming
pleasure.
here.
Thank
and
you.
Welcome to Hawaii. Every success for your meeting in the next few days. And Deborah, thank you again for coming in. Let me just remind the viewers that you are watching ThinkTech Hawaii, Research in Manoa. I'm your host, Pete Mouginis Mark, and today we've had Vicki McConnell, who is the Executive Director for the Geological Society of America. We've had Deborah Zimmerman from the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and don't forget, tomorrow we start the 3-day Cordilleran Section meeting of the GSA. And with that, I'll say goodbye until next week. So long.